next 30 minutes, you have a chance to call the law. You have a chance to call the law. To answer your criminal and civil law questions. Call now. 561-DON. That's 561-0255.
Good evening, Eastern North Carolina, and welcome to Call the Law. My name is Michael Stewart, and I am pleased to present criminal attorney Keith Williams and his co-host, civil attorney Don Higley. They are here every Tuesday night from 6:30 to 7, live on the radio at 103.7, the source for talk news information, and live on your television on Greenville's Cable Channel 7. This is your chance to talk to a lawyer for free, to learn everything you've always wanted to know about the law, but were afraid to ask. I invite you to give us a call now at 561-TALK. That's 561-8255. Join the conversation now as I turn it over to our hosts, Keith Williams and Don Higley.
Thank you, Michael Stewart, our announcer extraordinaire. Thank you for bringing us in tonight, and welcome to everyone. Welcome to another great show here on Call the Law. I'm your host, criminal attorney Keith Williams, my co-host, civil attorney Don Higley.
Happy Tuesday.
Great to see you, Don. We're here live Tuesday, May 22nd, 2012. Ready for your questions about the criminal law for me or the civil law for Don, 561-8255, 561-TALK. We invite you to give us a call tonight, 561-8255. Don, a lot of legal stuff in the news.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I knew people would be interested, so I checked the internet right before I came over here, and after 3 full days, they still don't have a verdict and are not making any real apparent progress in the John Edwards trial.
Yeah, among us criminal defense lawyers, you take a look at that and you think to yourself, the longer the jury stays out, the better it is for the defense.
Right. When they first started asking for exhibits, I felt a little bit like he might get found guilty, but now that they're going this long, they obviously have some form of disagreement.
They got the case on Friday of last week. They deliberated Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. You can understand maybe them getting the case on Friday, wanting a little more time, although sometimes you hear tell that juries will come to a quick verdict on a Friday so they don't have to come back the next week.
I've had that happen to me in Mecklenburg County.
Not for the better.
You mean all you have to do is say no to this issue here and we're out of here? All right, I vote for that. And then the rest of them are like, well, okay.
But we'll see what happens in the John Edwards trial going on in Greensboro, but that's true. The longer the jury stays out, the better for the defense in a criminal case. And I guess in a civil case, the longer they stay out, the better it would be for the plaintiff as they struggle with damages and how much to award.
Yeah, theoretically, there's no way they argue in a civil case about liability for 3 whole days, even in a long and relatively complicated case. That's when they have crossed over and they're starting to talk numbers.
So the government likely sweating bullets there in Greensboro.
Yeah. I think so, and it's I don't have any care one way or the other what happens, but I just can't believe between that case and Roger Clemens' case they're spending all that money. I mean, is there not something better they can be doing? Can they not prosecute somebody who has raped or murdered somebody or molested a child or something along those lines?
Yeah, you got to ask yourself that question at some point because they certainly invested a lot of resources in both of those trials, John Edwards and Roger Clemens.
Yeah, Roger Clemens, they're back on a second go-round. They mistried that one due to government buffoonery. Since they're out of earshot, I can say that.
No local prosecutors.
No. I can't remember what they did, but it was something fairly obvious that they brought out on cross that they were instructed not to discuss.
Yeah, I think the judge entered a protective order, said don't talk about this.
And they did.
And they talked about exactly this.
Ouch.
561-8255, 561-TALK. If you have questions about the criminal law for me or questions about the civil law for Don, we invite you to give us a call at 561-8255. Don, also stuff going on more locally here. The Daily Reflector had a note about jury selection that's continuing in a murder trial here in Greenville.
Right. Is that the Ridenour trial?
Yes, I believe that is the gentleman's name. That's right, the Ridenour trial. On trial for murder, it's a non-capital case as I understand it, so they're not going for the death penalty. That means that the defendant has only one attorney, not 2 as you would get in a capital case.
Okay.
And everything will be decided in one proceeding, so the jury will find the person guilty or not guilty. If the jury finds them guilty of first-degree murder, then the judge will impose a life sentence. It's not like a capital case where the jury finds them guilty of capital murder, and then the jury separately has to also decide on life or death. That's not what we have here.
Right.
But yeah, I understand they've had the process of going through jury selection. I imagine the evidence is either started today or getting ready to start fairly soon.
Yeah, it would seem that would have to be the case. They've been in jury selection for a while.
561-8255, 561-TALK. If you have questions for us tonight, we invite you to give us a call.
Weather report, it is coming down.
As we sit here in the studio on Arlington Boulevard, we can hear the rain coming down.
Unbelievable.
There is a special weather statement. Are we a weather show? Should we read that?
Yeah, why not?
People who are driving in their cars may want to know. Strong thunderstorms will move across Pitt and Greene counties through 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. At 6:19 p.m., Doppler radar indicated a line of strong thunderstorms extending along a line from Fountain to Roundtree. Locations in the path of these storms include Fountain, Belle Arthur, Winterville, Bells Fork, Shelmerdine House, and Henry Hinton's studio.
No question about the Henry Hinton studio. I can be a testament. Well, it was funny because I was in Durham today. It was just smoking hot, sunny, and then I got to Wilson and it just popped up dark black clouds and started raining. Weird weather, more like April.
That's exactly right. 561-8255, 561-TALK. If you're out driving tonight, drive safe. If you're at home, put down everything you're doing and give us a call at 561-8255. Don, also a lot of goings on in the Williford trial in Raleigh.
Yeah, I had lost track of that one over the last couple of days. I've had to leave before the paper arrives at my house. So.
Right. Williford, of course, the person who's charged with killing Kathy Taft, apparently Williford's wife, is Jason Williford. She took the stand today and testified that her husband told her on the day of the slaying, he said that a lady had been attacked in our neighborhood and I should lock the doors when he wasn't home.
Wow, that is awful.
Pretty scary, yeah. They had a lot of police work done in that case. Apparently tried to ask the whole neighborhood to take DNA samples, at least all the men. And the ones who refused, the police followed.
They followed him?
They followed him. And they waited until, in this case, Jason Williford was smoking, threw down a cigarette. As he walked off, they swooped in, picked up the cigarette, put it in a plastic bag, and tested it for DNA.
I'll be darned.
And they got their match.
Yeah, well, it worked. It does sound a little bit like the pre-Revolutionary War rules, but they got their man.
Now, that is a capital case, and so they're in stage one, where the jury's going to decide if the defendant is guilty or not guilty of the crime. And as I understand it from reading the online accounts, apparently his attorney came out and conceded up front to the jury that he had committed this crime.
Yeah, first thing he said in the closing arguments.
So the attorney is not up there trying to argue that DNA somehow should point to somebody else. He's not up there arguing that the SBI or whoever tested the DNA had a tainted result. He's apparently conceding the guilt on that issue and going through the process.
Right.
Now, people might say, well, why didn't he just plead guilty and then move into the second phase where the jury has to decide life or death? And, there's a lot of thinking about that. It used to be kind of the old thinking, if you plead guilty in the first phase, it'll show the jury that you're apologizing and accepting responsibility, so they'll be more likely to give you life in the second phase. But I think the more current thinking, if you will, is that you need to give the jury a chance to find you guilty in the first phase. Because even if you admit it, the jury still wants to kind of take it out on you.
Right.
And if they do that in the first phase, they might be more likely to feel in the second phase like they've gotten you once already and maybe more likely to give you a life sentence instead of the death penalty.
Yeah, that would make sense. Some people could really want their chance to deliberate, chance to put their name on that dotted line and find that person guilty.
Yeah, that's right. 561-8255, 561-TALK. And the jury selection process is so much longer in a capital case because you have to go through the process of death qualifying the jury. That is, you have to ask each and every one of the jurors, if it came down to it, would you be able to impose the death penalty?
Right.
And if you have someone who says, no, I just could never do that, I believe in religious faith or other beliefs that would make that impossible for me, then that person is excused from the jury.
Right. And unfortunately, most people don't make it that clear. They say they have misgivings about it, and then, it takes an hour before you get back to, and I don't know whether they do this in criminal cases, but a lot of the judges in the civil cases will say, well, now, are you saying you can't follow the law? Right. And no one ever says, yeah, that's what I'm saying, Judge, because they're afraid they're going to get thrown in jail. So they say, yeah, I can follow the law. And then they deny your strike for cause, and you only have 8, do you guys only have 8 in criminal?
Yeah, we have 6. So we have 6 people we can excuse for any reason or no reason. And then, of course, as you point out, if you have a juror who says that they can't follow the law or otherwise they just can't sit in the case, then the judge can excuse them, and it doesn't use up one of your 8 in a civil case or one of my 6 in a criminal case. But like you said, the judge is all the time trying to rehabilitate the jury, or trying to rehabilitate the juror. Now, you didn't mean in response to Mr. Higley's question that you would be unable to follow the law, did you?
Right.
And like you said, every juror is going to be, oh, no, I didn't mean that. I could definitely follow the law.
Right.
Well, Mr. Higley, I think this juror is qualified. I don't see why you're asking me to take this juror off the panel. I think you're going to have to use one of your 8.
And you look like the bad guy. All the rest of the jurors are looking at you like, why are you trying to sneak them off? The judge thinks they're fine.
Exactly, and the judge is God in any courtroom. So why are you arguing with God in front of me?
Or the guy who, at my last one, who was an employee of Duke Hospital, and it was a medical malpractice case, and he said, I can follow the law.
Oh, yeah,
I know
right.
what this is all about.
Uh-huh.
And he was trying to get on that jury desperately, and we had to, and they wouldn't, that we could not get him off for cause, and we had to use one of our strikes.
Yeah, that's exactly. I've been through that process, not in a civil case, but in a criminal one. 561-8255, 561-TALK if you have any questions for us tonight. Yeah, that's exactly right. And you go through that process, and you have to weigh it out, because as I try to explain sometimes to my clients, jury selection is sort of a misnomer. You're not selecting each and every juror that you would like to have. You're really deselecting the jurors that you absolutely cannot have on the jury.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it was jury selection. And you always end up with a couple real close calls. There's just no way in the human system to get 12 people that you're just saying, all these people I know are going to be fair.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the state is going to remove, in a criminal case, a person who may have been through the process before. Maybe they have a lot of convictions on their record, or they say that they have some hard feelings toward the DA's office because someone in their family was prosecuted. Well, of course, the state is going to remove that person. On the flip side, for the defense, you may get somebody who says, well, I'm married to a police officer, and we've been married for 20 years, and I always have understood things from their perspective, but I'll put all that aside and be fair to the defendant.
I can be fair, obviously.
The defense is most likely going to excuse them. But as you point out, it's an inexact science. It's more of an art, frankly, than a science. And I don't know about you, but I always try to save that one last strike if you can, because you never know who that last juror is going to be.
We almost got burned in my last trial, where we felt like there was 2 of us, so we had a witness to back each other up, that we felt like we had to use that last one. And then the next guy was this high school coach, son of a doctor, awful guy, but and we had to keep him, but he had heart trouble and didn't show up day 2, so we got a decent juror in there.
Yeah, you're always trying to save that last one where you can get rid of them on a discretionary basis, because you never know what that last juror is going to be like. If I use this up, that leaves an empty seat, and somebody's coming from out of that jury pool. That may be completely adverse to me.
And I have certainly gone like this before and looked back behind me to see what was out there before I use that thing.
561-8255. We've got William holding on the line. William, welcome to Call the Law. William, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, buddy. How are you?
Doing fine.
I was wondering if you were familiar with the jailbird paper.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know how it went so much as having someone put in there for the crime that they'd done. And there are some individuals who were in the police department in Washington, and there was I won't say a captain, highway patrol, and she wasn't a doctor, but a bunch of prescription pills and all, whereas, as far as I know, they were arrested for it and everything, but you haven't seen any of those people in the jailbird paper, and I was wondering what exceptions to the rule is there, and can you actually withdraw your name and all from being in that paper?
Right. Yeah, William, those are good questions, and certainly we can't comment on any specific case, but my understanding that the jailbird, they operate through state court, and I believe the case you're referencing, if I recall correctly, whatever was printed in the newspaper, I believe that was a case in federal court. So that's probably why you haven't seen that in the jailbird. Don, as I understand things, the state has a public record, and the public record has to be open, and that public record includes photographs.
Right. And what William's real question is do I have any kind of cause of action if my picture ends up in that paper? And the answer is no if you, as long as they accurately report who you are and what you were charged with. They don't say these people are guilty of these crimes that are listed below their photo. And it didn't click with me what he was talking about until I saw you pull it up there. But I have seen those when you go in the convenience stores. They're sitting up there at the... I've never had a desire to purchase one. I can't imagine spending a little money on that thing. But I think if they accurately report that you were charged with a crime, that's unfortunately going to be a defense. Truth is a complete defense to any libel or defamation claim.
And from the criminal side, I think William is putting his finger on a real good issue, which is you could have someone who's charged with a crime who's completely not guilty.
Right.
And they could be found not guilty, but that'll be months down the road, and in the meantime, their picture was in the jailbird.
Right.
What happens if
They
your
have been
employer
found
sees it?
guilty and everything, but so I was just wondering. I mean, I've never been in a jailbird, and I mean, I will pick it up from time to time and look at it. And I was just wondering, how that these people, I don't know whether they're above the law or can get around something like this.
No, I don't think there's any way that you can withdraw your picture out of the jailbird, at least nothing that I've heard of. Again, if you are charged with a state court offense and you go over to a county jail and they take your picture as part of a state court criminal offense, my understanding is the folks at the jailbird publications buy those public records or have access to those public records, and they print those pictures. And as Don pointed out, if what they print is truthful, that is, this person was charged with this offense, then from a civil perspective, it seems like there's no claim.
Right.
There are some concerns from the criminal side. It's unfair pretrial publicity, but I guess we're just weighing all that against the public's right to know.
Right. And I think that if you tried to somehow put a constraint on that, you'd have some real First Amendment problems.
I think that's right.
I've seen a lot of small time stuff, be in there all the time. But now this is pretty big when you have a sergeant with the highway patrol and you have a police officer, which he no doubt gave up his job because of it, and then you have a person who is, I'd say, just about a doctor, and then you have a woman who works at a drugstore giving out the drugs, and it's a lot within the law, and some people with a whole lot of knowledge, and I'd say a whole lot of pull. But
well, William,
fair.
I think we've answered that question about the best we can. We do appreciate you calling in, and we hope you have a great week. Okay?
Yeah, buddy.
561-8255, 561-TALK. If you have questions about the criminal law for me or questions about the civil law for Don, we invite you to give us a call at 561-TALK. Don, you've mentioned some of the civil trials and some of the civil work you've been doing. You've been traveling, I know, not statewide, but throughout a lot of different parts of the state, as recently as going up today to Durham.
Yeah, I went to Durham today and then Greensboro on Monday. I'm burning up I-40. And it's, I often sit and think about doing that in 1993, and just would not be possible. It's actually pretty manageable. And the worst part is when you get to Greenville and you try to get from the hospital to my office.
So back when you started practicing, it would have been a lot harder because you weren't connected electronically in the same way. Maybe a little harder to get from place to place.
You got no electronics. You're driving straight through Wilson, straight through Knightdale, and really, if you go all the way back to when I first got to North Carolina, you were going between Chapel Hill and Raleigh on 54, two-lane road, and then I can remember going home for Thanksgiving and it just being a parking lot between Chapel Hill and Greensboro.
Yeah.
So I'm looking on the bright side, and I don't really, if you didn't like a little bit of travel, you'd have a problem in my job, but I really don't mind doing it.
Get out and see some new faces, some new
That's
places
right.
Every once in a while.
Getting new court, notched a Surrey County case in my belt, trying to get all 100 counties before I retire. Surrey County, home of Mayberry.
561-8255, 561-TALK. If you have questions about the civil law for Don or questions about the criminal law for me, we invite you to give us a call at 561-8255. Don, I know things slow down just a little bit on my side of the fence as we approach summertime, and Greenville sort of empties out. The courts seem to slow down. We're looking forward to the weekend that's coming up. I don't think that we've had any opinions that came out today, at least nothing that I saw on the notice emails.
Today was not an opinion day. Last week was, and last week was a very slow North Carolina Court of Appeals opinion day. There was nothing remotely interesting in it at all.
There was a big story out of Rowan County about the teacher who was caught on video or caught on audio telling one of her students that as a social studies teacher, she was not permitted to let them speak ill of the president.
Was that Rowan County?
It was Rowan County, Salisbury, North Carolina.
Where did I hear that? I heard that somewhere on the national news today. When I get a lot of radio time on the way up and down the highway.
Yeah, it's been all over the national news. She apparently, and actually I heard the video, she told the students that as a social studies teacher, she couldn't let them speak ill of President Obama, any current or former president. So she's been placed on suspension. I imagine the students involved may have some kind of civil process they want to go through.
Yeah, it was on. I think it was on Henry's show that I actually heard it. And if you listen to the tape, that kid really baited her. He knew what he was doing.
Well, then maybe they'll call you to raise a civil claim.
Yeah, well, that's not going to be one I'll be taking.
561-8255, 561-TALK. We've got HB on the line. HB, welcome to Call the Law. HB, you there?
Yes, sir.
Hey, how are you doing?
Fine, Mr. Williams. So I have a question. I have a Jeep. Fine.
Say that one more time.
Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Yeah.
I have cargo space in the back. Is it during hunting season? What's the law about carrying a long gun in the back of the Jeep? Unloaded, like no shells in the barrel or receiver.
Right. Yeah, HB, that's a great question. Probably a question of interest to a lot of our listeners who are hunters. Well, first of all, the person has to have the right to own a firearm, and so that person has to have no felony convictions on their record, or the rights have to have been restored by law. Second, they're going to have to transport the gun in a safe manner, and that may be somewhat subjective dependent on the vehicle. The particular question about how exactly they store it in the back or how exactly they store it in the vehicle, that's something I'd want to defer to the wildlife officers, because wildlife codes and wildlife rules are real specific, and it's an area of the law where if you're in court on a wildlife case, the judges and the lawyers all look to the wildlife officers to help them understand the details of all that. HB, that's a good question. I think we can follow up on that and get you the answer. It's not something we'd have off the top of our heads. But if you want to give us a call this week, you can call my office at 931-9362. That's 931-9362, and we can certainly get you the answer to that question. All right, HB?
Thank you, sir. You're a great lawyer. Sure do appreciate you.
All right, thanks so much. I think he was talking to you.
No, yeah, that was obviously directed at you.
561-8255, 561-TALK. If you have questions about the criminal law for me or questions about the civil law for Don, we invite you to give us a call at 561-8255.
There is a famous insurance coverage case where a guy is pulling his gun off the gun rack and shoots his hunting partner with it. And the issue is whether it was covered by the truck insurance or by the guy's homeowner's insurance, and the court held both.
Oh, okay.
Covered it. So do be careful, HB, when you rack that thing. Don't load it.
Other court issues in the news. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals.
Yeah.
Based
Is that
in,
our friends in San Francisco?
Yeah, based in San Francisco. The liberal.
What have they done now?
They're planning a conference, the 2012 Ninth Circuit Conference. It's being planned for a very nice little place known as Maui.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Might have to attend that.
And in the wake of the GSA scandal, where they had a huge party, I think it was in Las Vegas, and spent a ton of money, this is getting a lot of attention, and so it's something else that's in the news. Ninth Circuit apparently under some heat, taking some criticism for scheduling their conference in Maui, where other circuits, for example, the 8th Circuit, is going to Kansas City.
Yeah, I wonder where the 4th goes.
I think the 4th Circuit typically is at a spa in West Virginia that's not too far from the actual court offices. I doubt that the 4th Circuit will be going to Maui anytime soon.
No.
Yeah, a little hard to justify Maui when your fellow judges are going to places like Kansas City.
Right, and the 4th Circuit's very conservative, so I'm sure they watch their money well.
I will say I don't travel much, but I have gone to Maui one time.
Yeah, you did. I do remember that. I couldn't even afford the plane flight.
It was for a conference where the group, not a judge group, not a court, not a government group, but a private group paid for the lawyers to come out, and all we had to do is pay for the spouses to come. And
wow, that's really not bad. Yeah, that is a good deal. Yeah. I was able to work that with Puerto Rico once, but that's not quite as far as Maui.
Well, just the flight out there is crazy. I mean, flying from here, it's like you're sitting in a plane for 12 hours. You think, this is crazy. I'm closer to North Korea than I am to North Carolina.
Yeah, and at some point in time, it's just not worth it. I mean, getting caught in there. We went to, Paris and England a couple of times, and that just, man, I can barely stand it because I can't sleep on those things. And it's tough for a guy who's claustrophobic. Doesn't bother me to fly, but I just go crazy after about the third hour.
And you're flying the other way. When you fly like the western way, when you fly toward Maui, you're actually getting ahead of things.
Yeah, right.
So you're waking up early, and it's not so bad, but when you come back,
Yeah.
we lost a whole night. Like
Yeah.
it was 12 o'clock when we took off, and it was 6
turned
o'clock
out to
when
be
we
the
landed.
next day.
And yeah, it was like there was no time to sleep. That was just all eliminated.
Yeah.
561-8255, 561-TALK. Questions about the criminal law for me or questions about the civil law for Don, 561-8255. Don, it's been a good couple or 3 years here for us. I can't remember exactly how long we've been going now.
Well, I remember when we hit 2, and that's been a long time ago. So, yeah, it's probably coming up on 3.
We don't say this enough, but we really do appreciate everyone who listens to us on 103.7 The Source, everyone who watches us on Greenville Cable Channel 7. Get a lot of people that come up to us now, and it seems like the show has snowballed and caught more and more attention as time has gone on.
Yeah, definitely. I run into folks, and I was pumping gas the other day at the corner of 33 and Greenville Boulevard, and somebody goes, "Hey, it's the lawyer guy from the TV." I was like, "Yeah, that's me."
I was paying for my gas one day in Sheetz, and I walked up to the counter, and the guy looked at me. He said, "You're taller than you look on TV."
And they say I'm shorter than I look and have less hair.
Our chairs are exactly even, so we'll never tell.
That's right.
All right, coming up to the end of the show, we want to turn it over to our professional announcer to take us out, Mr. Michael Stewart.
Well, thanks, Keith, and thanks, Don, and thanks once again to everyone in our TV and radio audience for watching and listening. If you need help with a criminal case, call Keith Williams at his office at 931-9362. If you need help with a civil case, especially a case involving personal injury, call Don Higley at 757-7777. And that brings us to the end of another great show here on Call the Law. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you again next Tuesday night here on Call the Law.